There is hacking, but it's not like the movies where somebody in Russia or China is behind their computer and targeting this law firm, right? It's automated, and now with AI, they just send out millions and millions of bots to go out and sniff to see if there's issues, vulnerabilities, and then when they notice one, that's when the human comes involved and says, okay. And there's criminal organizations out there that operate like a corporation. They get benefits. They're all in a corporate building. It's insane.
Sharp strategies, sweet success.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Tiffany Svedensky, and you're listening to Sharp Strategy, Sweet Success. Today, I'm speaking with Kellam Parks. I've known Kellam for a long time, originally when I worked for GLM, met him at a few of our events, and I think he was a member of GLM for a while. And him and his firm, Parks Zeigler, are a big PI practice in Southern Virginia. I see their name come up in SEO reports whenever I'm scanning the area. So I definitely know they're doing a good job down there. And Kellam is just a fantastic person, fantastic attorney that I've known for a very long time and very happy to have him on the show. And I'll just turn it over to Kellam to finish out his introduction.
Thanks, Stephanie. Yeah, actually, that's exactly right. So we met. I've been a member of GLM since 2012. When I started my firm, I always laughed and said, and I just shared with Ben recently for his 20th anniversary of Great Legal Marketing, that I saw him on YouTube, and he convinced me to start my own firm without ever having met. He pushed me over the edge, so that was great. But yeah, so I started as a solo in 2012. We actually, believe it or not, don't do personal injury anymore. We did personal injury at a time, but we've since I started doing family law. I thought I was going to do some Fair Credit Reporting Act cases. And now, almost this January, will be 14 years. Now we do 13 practice areas. We've got 14 lawyers, 3 offices, 2 states. I personally do cybersecurity, data privacy work, high asset divorces, and complex civil when I practice law. But I like the business of law more. So I try to do less practice and more business. But yeah, so, really love this stuff. I'm in charge. My partner, Brandon Ziegler, and we split up management. And so I'm in charge of marketing, intake, systems, procedures, and tech, which is why I really love being on this podcast, because I love marketing. And we have our own internal marketing manager that I work with very closely. So near and dear to my heart, what you do.
Well, and I should have did better research. I just assumed personal injury so many times. But you said cybersecurity law, and I might be the first time I've heard of that. What kind
Sure.
of cases are those? Like, what are you guys looking for?
Yeah. So cybersecurity can be a number of things. There are some firms, usually larger injury firms, they do class action work where they sue companies that have data breaches. We're not in that world. I represent companies. And so I do 2 things. What I really like to do is help businesses across, and actually a lot of it's consulting work. So I represent companies across the United States. I don't need to be licensed in those states to do this kind of work. But I help businesses prepare. And so I put together 3 plans for them. I do a data breach avoidance plan, get the right insurance, get them the right tech set up with the right company. A lot of times they don't have the right company in place. And then we talk about how they handle their data, who has access to their data. I also do a tech policy, which now includes an AI policy. I'm big into AI for our firm and personal use. And so I help the companies put together for their handbook, here's our firm or our company tech policy, including AI policies to really tighten it up. And then the third is an incident response plan. So I work with them to, hey, when something happens, here's what we're going to do. And one of the biggest pieces is insurance, because cybersecurity insurance really isn't a one size fits all like liability insurances or auto insurance. So a lot of people don't have a policy, or they have a rider and the rider is bad. And so those 3 things really help businesses lock themselves down. And then the other part of what I do is legal, and that's in Virginia and North Carolina, where we're licensed here at the firm. And that's incident response. So when something happens, you have certain legal obligations to notify people and respond. And I work through those crisis events across both states. So I've got a lot going on right now, actually. But yeah, so I got into about 8, 9 years ago because I'm a tech guy, and I started with speaking about it, and I did an event with somebody who actually practices it. And after 5 minutes of meeting her, she's like, "You're really stupid not to do this." So I said, "Well, it's very nice to meet you." But she was right. And so now I do that. It's probably about 70% of what I do personally for when I practice law. So I really like it a lot.
Man, it's so necessary. And unfortunately, I don't think a lot of business owners realize just how much data, like And just speaking purely from like marketing data perspective, like I'm dealing with forms and automations and systems that house personally identifiable information. And it's so important for law firms to like understand like what it means to like transmit data from one system to another, how to keep that secure, the importance of, something basic like two-factor authentication. And so I think every business needs this because like I feel like once a month, well, maybe not that frequently, but like once every 2 months, I get a letter in the mail about like how there's a data breach from just some company that has like some of my data or something like that, and it's been exposed. And it happens all the time. And one thing that this may not and be entirely related to what you guys do, but like I was vetting a lead generation company that generated leads from Facebook for personal injury attorneys. And the person I talked to, the salesperson, it was an American company. I went to their website and learned about their site. But through their privacy policy and their landing pages, I found the ads were actually run by a company in Saudi Arabia. And, just think about that for a second. There's a Saudi Arabia company running ads for, in the US. People are filling out the forms. Their personal data is being transmitted to Saudi Arabia and then back to American law firms who are buying these leads. And it just seems to me like I don't think people realize like you submit a form and how far and how many people like get access to that and see that information. And it's scary. It's actually scary.
I mean, you're right. A lot, and unfortunately, not enough people think about it. And so from a business perspective, if you have a data incident that turns into a breach, and the breach is that legal term of art, meaning that personal information has been compromised, which is the triggering the notifications and everything else. Not only do you have a business problem because you have the money and the response and the cost, and a typical response is 6 figures. It just costs that much, which is why you need the insurance. But as lawyers, we have an ethical obligation to protect our client confidences. And so not only do you have a business problem, but if you haven't taken, most states, the standard is reasonable, but if you haven't taken reasonable steps to protect this data, you may have a bar problem. So it's a big issue. And I find, not surprising to you because you work with a lot of law firms, that lawyers typically aren't very technologically savvy. And so the challenge is getting them to understand the importance and then paying for it. But it's really important. And so what I try to do, and I do a lot of speaking on it, and I have a lot of connections with IT companies and insurance companies to try to get in front of these people to say, hey, this is really important. And basically, I have what I work with them is I do a consultation. I say, hey, here's a form. Go work with your IT company and fill this out, which does two things for me. It tells me how messed up they are now, and that also helps me price these plans, right? How much work am I going to have to do? But it also tells me low key if their cybersecurity IT company is any good. Because if they come back and can't answer these questions, that in itself tells me something. And I've put together guides. I put together guides for businesses, HIPAA organizations, and law firms. So I have similar guides, but trying to focus to each industry. So at the end, when we give out contact information, if anybody just wants to email me, I'll tell you where to go and you can download the guides. Because if nothing else, it helps them understand, hey, this is what I should probably be doing. And here's how I vet these companies just to get them started. Because again, it's just so important and people just don't realize and until it's too late. I love
Yeah.
when I get connected to people before something happens and then they actually pay attention and hire me and I help protect them because it minimizes the chance something's going to happen and maximizes the response and also covered by insurance. I got to tell you though, probably 70% of my clients come to me after something's happened and they don't have insurance. And so
Mhm.
they're like, hey, I need to hire you. And I said, okay, buckle up. It's going to be expensive. And then I protect them
Oh,
after,
goodness.
right? But it's a thing for sure.
Yeah. Oh, wow. And help me explain this to attorneys because I've been trying, but when it comes to like data breaches and hacking, like, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but like it's not actually like hacking like it is in the movies where somebody's like furiously trying to get through your firewalls. It's social engineering, right? That's
Uh,
how, a lot of these companies are getting access.
That's the most of it. Now there is hacking, but it's not like the movies where somebody in Russia or China is behind their computer and targeting this law firm, right? It's automated, and now with AI, They just send out millions and millions of bots to go out and sniff to see if there's issues, vulnerabilities. And then when they notice one, that's when the human comes involved and says, okay. And there's criminal organizations out there that operate like a corporation. They get benefits. They're all in a corporate building. It's insane. So that does happen, but far more frequently, exactly like you said, it's social engineering. And it's a phishing attack or a spear phishing attack, which is a targeted phishing attack against somebody, not just some random thing. One of your people clicks something and now they're in your system. And in the old days, it used to be ransomware was a big thing. It still is, but that was the number one thing is they would lock your system down and then you have to pay them in Bitcoin to unlock your data. Nowadays, it's much more frequent. They get into your system and just wait. And then they wait and until something happens. And so I had a client who they were a service organization and they were buying a piece of equipment from Canada, and they also had a client that owed them money. And then the bad guys had been in their system for a couple of months and just waited. And when they saw that happening, they posed as the Canadian company and told the victim, hey, pay us here instead of there. And they lost 6 figures. And then they posed as the victim company and told the client, pay us here, not there, and lost more 6 figures. And then only after the third attempt, something else is when they got caught, and the client lost $200,000-$300,000 that couldn't get recovered, and now had to respond to the incident breach. So that's typically what happens. And so part of this planning is education. So your team is your vulnerable point. So it's all about phishing training, have periodic training. It's having the things in place. Like in our system, we have a sandbox. So if you click something on 365, which is our mail server, it goes to a sandbox before it goes outside our environment. So even if you click a bad link, it's going to catch it. We also have something called EDR, Endpoint Detect Response, which is like a machine learning AI assisted thing that sits on all devices, and it notices weird behavior. So it says, hey, this shouldn't be running, or hey, you just downloaded 5 gigabytes of data at 2 a.m. And then that triggers a managed SOC or security operations center 24/7. There's a human being that at 3 a.m. goes, oh, let's turn off their internet. So all of this all of it comes together. Now, none of it's cheap. So at our firm, we pay about $13,000 a month for our IT and cybersecurity work. We have 37 people. That also includes IT tickets and setting up our devices and quarterly meetings. But a lot of that's just all of these tools and everything else. And when I talk to law firms, they go, oh my God, that's so expensive. And I go, I guess compared to what? Compared to a breach? It's not. Because
Yeah.
I'm able to get the insurance at a good rate because I have these things. And oh, by the way, I don't have a breach. Because we had 3 or 4 incidences in the last 60 days where somebody tried to cut into our system, click something or did something, or somebody actually tried to get into our system, and this stuff caught everything.
Wow. That is so incredible. And I love that. And one thing on the marketing side, and I mean, this is kind of mundane compared to some of the stuff you're talking about, honestly. But like, this is why when I talk to law firms about access to tools like Google Business, Google Ads, local service ads, you really need to have unique accounts for everyone. A lot of law firms are still doing this whole password sharing, license sharing thing. And it just increases the risk of vulnerabilities because if you don't want to use two-factor authentication so everyone can log into a system, you're disabling like a very important security feature. And also kind of like more operationally, it's just useful because like every program that we work with in marketing has a change history. And so if you're trying to figure out like what happened in a Google Ads account or what change was made, if you have unique users, you can see who made the change and when. But if everyone's sharing a login, it's just, anyone could have done it. And so like having that, what's the word I'm looking for? Structural integrity with your
Mhm.
security, I guess. That's really it's so important. And not even just from a security perspective, it's just smart. It's just smart to do it. And so you can track all these individual things.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100% with you. I mean, it is both first of all, multi-factor or two-factor authentication, it should be mandatory. Like that shouldn't even be a discussion anymore.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But then every single person should have their own account, both from a security standpoint, but like you said, from an operational standpoint, you can't effectively see changes and audits and track things. So on both sides, I couldn't agree with you more. And it's just Part of it's just education, right? It's like, oh, I don't need that. But then something happens and then they do. So
Oh,
I got to tell you how much I pound the pavement telling people, I'm like, look, listen to me. You're like, don't even hire me, but hire somebody. Like, at least get insurance. Because
yeah.
I think we have $1 million of really good insurance. We use a company. So there's three policies I like. One is collation, at bay, and CFC. So those are the three big that I really like that are cybersecurity insurance coverage. We use collation. I think we pay $3,400 a year for $1 million. I mean, it's nothing for $1 million in coverage, and it's luckily we haven't had to make a claim yet, but it's just a peace of mind. And people just don't. They go, "Oh no, I have." So Alps is a big legal malpractice carrier, especially in Virginia, and they have a writer for all their policies, and the language is actually pretty good. Again, cybersecurity policies are really the Wild West out there, but their language is good. The coverage is good. The exclusions are good, are appropriate. But I think the standard is 25 grand. And I'm like, guys, that's not going to touch it. 25,000 is going to get gone in a week, 2 weeks. You absolutely need a lot more coverage than that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it really is. It's one of those things. I don't know why. And I'm sure I know you're frustrated with it as well because you're a tech person and you're working with people and you're like, well, this isn't my lane. But let me tell you, you should probably think about this.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of times it's people trying to save on the cost of a user license, and sometimes those
Sure.
licenses can get expensive, but like you've already pointed out, like what's the cost savings on like a $25 a month, $100 a month, $500 a month license when you stack that up against like the expenses incurred by a breach or just the headache. I mean, it can just save you the headache, which honestly feels like should be enough for me just to pay for an extra license for a program, honestly. Yeah.
Well, I agree. And I think you also see this sometimes. Lawyer, it's this weird dichotomy that I have found. So we talked before we started. I'm doing now some law firm coaching, right? So I really enjoy the business side of law. So I'm trying to help lawyers run their practices better and create sort of the best firm for them. But part of the discussion I have with these lawyers is they don't want to pay for things like security or licenses or specific boring tools that really, but are really effective. But at the same time, they will throw absolutely insane amount of money at the shiny object. And in the marketing world, they're like, "Oh no, I got this new thing," or "I want to spend all this money on TV," or "I want to do these." And you're like, "Guys, stop. Like, can we get back to the fundamentals of what works?" I'm sure I have to think you have that argument all the time with your clients, right?
I mean, I can't, well, when it
Not to
comes to
out your
marketing
clients, potential
investments,
clients. Right.
potential clients. The one thing I buck up against a lot, and this may be a good transition to the other thing I wanted to ask you about, is just like when it comes to shiny objects, just like reaching for like that new AI tool that isn't quite there yet. I've had like experiences with that like 2 or 3 times, and I love these AI tools. Like I use them all the time. I'm doing a presentation on AI tools like later. But some of these tools can be really expensive. And it's just like there are cheaper alternatives. And then you're right. It's just like I'll argue with you about a $500 lead docket license, but we'll spend $5,000 on something probably not so great. I don't want to get too specific today.
I understand.
um,
Yeah, we're not going to call out any bad, but look, you're right. AI tools, especially, everything is now with AI, right? It's like
yeah.
the multivitamin of the world. Everything has to have AI, and there are some tools that are great, and there are a lot of them that aren't. And lawyers, again, not being particularly tech savvy, I see that all the time. I had one of my coaching clients I was talking to, and they wanted to re up with a long-term legal research organization that happens to have AI now. And I said, don't do it. I said, it's nothing
Yeah.
against them. I said, but you can find better specialty tools for a lot less and you don't have to sign a long-term contract. And so I pointed him in the direction of another vendor and he ended up going with that vendor. And he called me like 3 months later and he goes, "Oh, thank you so much because I'm getting so much more out of this. And if I don't like it, I can change." And I have a buddy of mine that signed this 4-year contract with this other company and now they're paying 800 a month for stuff that doesn't work right.
Ugh.
And that's the thing. They just don't know. You don't know what you don't know, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. So, like, what are the AI tools that you like and want to like share? Like, what's working for you?
Sure. So interestingly enough, and if you don't, if have you ever heard of Allie K. Miller? Alliek Miller. So she's somebody I recommend you and your listeners follow. So she's on LinkedIn. That's her main platform. She was in the AI space 20 years ago as a actual computer wonk. She worked for IBM, I think, and Amazon at one point. And now she basically, her whole thing is to try to bring AI to entrepreneurs. And so she talks about being an AI first company and how to implement AI. And I attended one of her, she had a 2-day AI first seminar, convention, workshop, however you want to call it, about 3 months ago that I attended. And it was fantastic because it was a great, and she had some good speakers from Claude and a bunch of other people to show specific tools, but she actually, the idea was how to smartly implement it in your company. And it could be any company, but in this case, we were looking at my law firm. So as a proposition, we're trying to systematically look at how we can implement it across all aspects of our firm. Before we get there, we've implemented it in very specific ways. So we started with the low-hanging fruit of legal research, right? So we've always been a Lexis entity, so we just tacked on. We were one of the first ones, apparently, I found out from my rep, we were one of the first ones in my area to tack on to start using their AI product, really when it wasn't ready for prime time, but we used it and understood the limitations. And so we still with them. However, we use other tools, which I think perform a little better at this point. One of my favorites up until a couple of weeks ago was called Calidus. It's now called Strong Suit. It was actually one of the founders is a former M&A attorney. And they've just done a really good job with legal research, contract drafting and comparison and data analysis, information review, deposition preparation. It's just a really good tool. And it's month to month. Unlike Lexis and Westlaw, it's not per attorney. So we have 14 attorneys. I only have 3 or 4 that ever need it, but I'm paying for 14 lawyers. Whereas with this tool, it's per license, whatever you want, because they base it on use. And I think it's like $150 a month for a reasonable amount of use. So it's really not that expensive either. But we also use it across all other aspects of the firm. So we use it obviously for marketing. We're just I got into ChatGPT in March of 23, so about 5 months after it launched. And so we just have a ChatGPT license for my marketing manager, and she uses it. We have Canva, so we have the AI baked into Canva. We have Adobe, so we have the AI baked into Adobe. We use it in HR purposes. So we use it. I have customized GPTs that I've set up for interviews and for job postings. I use it as well for writing. So I have some specialized AI tools I use for writing, both to help me with the drafting and also to humanize it. So we use something called, I think it's called Humanize. So basically, I was doing a presentation myself on AI a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking to the audience and said, well, this is going to get very meta. And by meta, I don't mean Facebook. I just mean this is very crazy. But basically, I use AI to help me write. And then I run AI through an AI detecting program that uses AI to find out if it's AI. And then I use another piece of AI to turn the AI product into it sounding more human, running it back through the AI checker to then publish it so that Google doesn't know that it's AI. So it's insane. But we use it. One of the other things Allie talks about is use it as a companion, not as a replacement, right? So one of the things that we're looking into, we have 3 physical offices. So we have 3 physical receptionists, and part of their job is to answer the phone. They're not our intake team to try to convert to clients, but they are the people that just say, hey, Parks Zeigler, how can I help you? We're looking into an AI product to offload the calls because receptionists don't like taking the calls anyway. We're not going to fire a receptionist, but it's going to give them the opportunity to do more high value work. And that's how we're trying to implement AI at the firm, is not to replace, but to delegate routine grunt work and things that people don't want to do. So that's the big next thing we hope to roll out by first quarter of next year, is to have an AI voice system to answer our calls and call people back and that kind of stuff. I'm trying to think what else we use AI for. That's probably the highlights. I mean, it's a lot, but I think we probably use about 14, 15 different AI products. Note-taking apps. So I use Granola is one of my favorites. I still have Fireflies because I bought a year contract, but I like Granola better. I'm going to buy one of the new Claude Note Pluses. It's the thing that the new one, it has like 8 mics or something. So yeah, I could geek out about this stuff all day because I love AI so much.
Yeah, my note taker has proven to be really valuable. And the first one I ever got, I didn't get with Fireflies. It's called Read AI. And I think it's actually integrated with Copilot or something like Microsoft. And I'll tell you what, that thing is just unbelievably invaluable because it follows me around. It's sitting here taking notes in this meeting right now because I forgot to kick it. And I have set this bad boy up to where after each meeting I have, it'll, like if I'm having a client meeting and we're talking about projects, it'll actually like break out each project with a title and a description, send it to my project board, and put it on the appropriate project board in the to-do column. And I just have to come in and like update it. It has my notes from the meeting, it has task lists from what we discussed. And that's part custom. Like I built that with read.ai and Zapier and just some cute engineering. And it, honestly, like, but just the read.ai thing itself is like super useful because somebody asked me a question the other day. They're like, hey, Tiffany, why did we do this thing this way last year? And I can't remember what I ate for breakfast this morning. And I'm just like, let me go. I'm better than that. But I had no idea what we did a year ago. And I went to read.ai and I just typed in, like, what did we do with this project in 2024? Why did we decide we were doing it this way? And it told me because we had that discussion in like 2 or 3 meetings and nobody remembered, but the AI note taker remembered. And so we were able to, oh, yeah, that's why we did it. And it was just so useful. It probably saved us several hours of conversation trying to unravel what we were thinking the year prior. And just simple stuff like that can just be crazy useful when it comes to the AI tools. I've been really digging on the AI note taker recently, even though I've been using it for like 2 years. I've just like rediscovered it. It's so awesome.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, it's great because not only does it obviously capture everything, but I think it allows you to be more present in your meetings because I'm a big note taker physically. I don't like paper, so when I started my firm in 2012, I was paperless and cloud based. It was pretty radical back then. But I'm typing up notes while we're talking. And if you're meeting with a potential client and I'm typing up notes, sometimes they think that I'm not paying attention to them. But if you can have these AI note takers, and going back to cybersecurity, you need to have a paid account and you need to make sure it's secure, right? So I pay for Granola. Granola is SOC 2 compliant and all the acronyms that nobody cares about, but it's private data. Same thing with the Plod note. Basically, you can just sit it on the table and it can record. So not only do you have the summaries, you have the actual transcript. One of the reasons why I like Granola is I can share the summary with someone. And at the bottom, it says, hey, if you'd like to interact with the transcript, let me know. And you could just hit the link and they can go to Granola where they don't need an account and they can literally use AI to ask it questions. And it's just like you said, and then you'd use it with something like Make, Zapier, and then we're going to have agentic AI sometime in the next year or two where it's just going to happen. But the idea is it's like you said, it's such a force multiplier. It's so efficient. And that's what I'm trying. So going back to the lawyers, in the old days, so I'm an old guy, right? So in the old days, I had to go to the library and do legal research. So we had to actually do it by hand, right? So I sound like my grandfather, but you had to do it, right? Yeah, by hand. And then once I graduated, eventually Lexis and Westlaw were affordable for the regular person and not big firms. And so my young attorneys, obviously it's all digital and that's great. But in the old days, like the old days being last year, we would give them a research project. They would go to Lexis, they would type it in, they would root around in the wilderness for a couple of hours and they may be in the completely wrong track. And then they come back with a product that's 20% of what I was looking for. Now they're all instructed. You start with AI, put this hypothetical into the AI. It will get you where at least in the right neighborhood. Now go root around, right? I don't want you 5 miles away from where you need to be because that's going to waste your time, my time, the client's time. I can't build a client. It's just a waste. So let's just start there. Now, whereas I don't have to go and read every case and read every horn book because I know what the issue is, you do. So I'm still not going to bill 100% of what you're doing. But the idea is it's just an efficiency multiplier. And that's what I'm trying to teach lawyers. And don't be afraid of it. People go, oh, it hallucinates. I'm like, yeah, okay, but so do your associates. They get it wrong. Like you got to look at the work product. I still see, and if you're really interested, there's a guy named Damien Charlotine. He's a French technologist and lawyer, and he has an ongoing website. So literally, if you just put Damien Charlotine, he has an ongoing spreadsheet showing every court sanction based on AI use and proper AI use, and it's ongoing. And every time I talk, it's up another 50 to 100.
Oh my
But
gosh.
but I don't understand why. At this point, that means people just aren't reading what they're submitting. It's incredible. But yeah, anyway, so AI is it's great. People are afraid of it. They shouldn't be. But at the same time, you can't ignore it. And that's the other thing I'm telling lawyers, especially in the business side of things, is if you're ignoring AI, you're going to be obsolete pretty quickly. and your business is probably going to go up in flames. So you absolutely have to pay attention to it. Now, how you use it depends on your practice area and all sorts of stuff. But especially if you're in the transactional world, the only way to distinguish yourself is customer service and expertise, actual implementation, because the drafting days are over.
Oh yeah. And I'm so glad you said that because I was thinking about that earlier today and I'm trying to remember why. But like customer service is like half of marketing because like
Mhm.
good service leads to more referrals. It also applies to what happens at intake. I could go on and on. And I mean, you're totally right. I think, and for me, where I sit sometimes where I see lawyers going wrong with AI is we reach for the thing like AI video or like an image generator, which are really good, but like are really just like one part of what we can do with AI. Like you and I have just talked about like a whole bunch of like AI features that are hecka useful, huge time savers. And a lot more efficient than like some of the AI avatars I see crop. And I'm sorry, like I hate to dig on anyone, but like those kind of bug me. But there's so much use for AI and like it's transformed my life. I couldn't run my company the way I run it without AI tools. I am like blessed that I opened up my company in 2022, like 7 months prior to ChatGPT being released. And Sharp Cookie before ChatGPT and Sharp Cookie after was just different companies because I was just able to automate so much more. Well, we're coming up on the end of our slotted time. I don't want to keep Kellum too long. So my traditional last two questions. Was there anything that we didn't end up talking about that you're hoping we talk about?
I don't think so. I love that it was just this wide ranging conversation. I think it's great. And anytime I can dive into the AI world, I'm a happy guy. So I think I really enjoyed it. It was good.
No. I'm chatty. I can talk about marketing and AI all day, trust me. And where do you want people to go learn more about you, look you up, follow you, and all that good stuff?
Sure, absolutely. So really two places. If you go to pzlaw.com, that's my website for Parks Zeigler. So if you're interested in the cybersecurity stuff, again, I have some free guides. I'm always happy to provide some free information, education to, and again, it's national, so it's not state dependent for that kind of thing. If you go to pzlaw.com, that's our law firm. And then my coaching company is called The Motivated Lawyer. Motivate's an acronym, and I sort of touch on all aspects of law firm ownership, including tech AI, marketing, which is visibility, all sorts of things. But if you go to themotivatedlawyer.com, right now it's just a newsletter sign up. So I have some one-on-one clients, but I'm launching the official launch of the companies later this month by the end of December of 2025. But I have a newsletter I send out every Tuesday. So it's a free email newsletter. I talk about one of the principles about law firm ownership. I also talk about AI news, recent AI news of the last week. And then I have one practical AI tip every week. So it's a free newsletter. Sign up. I'm sure there'll be something in there that will be of use to you. And then you'll start to hear about other stuff that I'm doing because I'm really passionate about helping lawyers figure their life out when it comes to running their law firm.
Recently, I've actually made it a habit to read. I have two email newsletters that I read like actually in my email. One of them is Arnold Schwarzenegger's e-newsletter for some reason. Don't ask me why, but I follow that guy. And then it's your newsletter, which I
Oh,
think I
great.
just recently started getting. So go check it out, sign up. Definitely love following Kellum. He knows his stuff. There are not too many technical lawyers in this space, so it's always nice to talk with somebody who gets that. Anyway, thank you so much for being on the show. We'll probably have to talk again sometime soon because I love the tech stuff. And thank you so much. Thanks so much for being a
Hey, thank you.
guest.
Thanks for having me, Tiffany. It was a pleasure.